Guitar intervals, C major, A minor, and related modes, focusing this time on E Phrygian, pivoting around the E note, which is located on the second string from the top of the guitar, part number 2. Remember, one of our main objectives is to get all of our resources lined up in the same direction, making them as easy on the eyes from the perspective of the player of the guitar, who is of course located behind the guitar. Therefore, for example, my guitar will look like I'm left-handed. I'm not actually playing left-handed. We just flipped the guitar around so it is mirroring what you are doing. From behind the guitar, we typically have the low or heavy string up top, closest to the ceiling, left to right going this way towards the body of the guitar. We're orientating our worksheet similarly, this representing the top string on the fretboard, the low or heavy string, the one closest to the ceiling, so that top to bottom, left to right on our worksheet will look as though we took the guitar and just imprinted those strings right on the screen. So that means that hopefully it'll be easier for us to line everything up and spend all of our attention just looking at what we're trying to figure out this time, which is of course intervals, which is hard enough without trying to flip someone else's guitar around because you're looking at it the opposite way and the worksheet is upside down and backwards and the skinny string is on top. No, that's not, I can't deal with that, man. I can't deal with that right now. So we'll have everything going the same direction. So we're going to be looking at the intervals, noting that in prior presentations, we started by looking at the major scale, and then we want to look at the related modes. By doing so, we're going to get an idea of the shape so that we can always really focus in on all the notes that are going to be within this shape. We can look at the relationship of the shape to the construction of that shape, either with the formula, meaning whole, whole, half, whole, 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 half, for example, or the intervals, meaning we measure from one pivot point. And that pivot point could be any of the 7 notes in the scale, and then we have a different number of intervals from that pivot point. So we started out looking at this shape up top, and that's because this is possibly the most familiar shape to people. It's just shape-wise, where if I played it pentatonic A to A, which would be a minor, it would look like that, going from this A to this A. And if we add the other 2 notes, then we'd have the 7-note scale looking like that. So then we're just going to practice that same shape, but we're going to practice it not just in the A minor by starting on that, but by every note within the shape, which means we're basically going around the modes. And remember, once you go around the modes, you can easily convert from any mode to its related major or minor, because there's only 1/2 step different. So if you're saying, hey, look, I'm sick of this same shape, I want to think about how I can go from one shape to another shape and so on and so forth. One way you can think of doing that is saying, I know this shape quite well. What if I take the whatever mode I'm looking at and I convert it to its related major or minor? That's one way that you can think about things. And again, my goal here is to try to, my exercise that I do partially for myself here is, of course, to try to look at things from as many angles as possible. I'm trying to remove myself from the perspective of, well, look, I have a way that works. I'm going to see it my way. And then every other person that says something different, I convert it to my way. That's fine to do, but what I want to be able to do more is to see it from the different angles. The more different angles you see it from, the better. So if I can see this shape just as the shape, I can see the shape. If I can see the shape by constructing it from the formula, whole, 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 half, that would be great. If I can see the shape by constructing it from the pivot point of any of the modes, that would be great. If I can move from whatever scale I'm looking at here to a different entire scale by either changing the shape, changing the formula, changing the intervals, or just saying I'm going to look at this shape and then change the one interval to whatever the other shape is, right? That might be the way I think about fingering it in my mind. I might say, well, I'm playing the same shape that I know very well. I've worked all the time for that shape, and then I'm just going to change that one note so that I'm now moving, say, from like a Dorian, a D Dorian to a D minor, or a E Phrygian, which has all of these notes, to an E minor, or a F Lydian to an F major, right? So that's going to be some of the things that you might be able to experiment on how you want to think about different ways to orientate yourself, right? So we went around the C and we looked at all of the intervals. We went around then the Dorian, making it the root, and changed all the intervals to this minor mode, and then pivoted around this note, and we result in, of course, the same shape, but different intervals, because we're basically have our compass. What is that, the thing where you put you draw a circle around a point with a compass? We put kind of like our compass here, and we come up with the same circle or the same shapes around it, but from the different point. And now we're going to continue on with the Phrygian. So the Phrygian is, of course, the third of the major scale, and we looked at our intervals. So just a quick recap of that. Here's our major scale. Here's the intervals around the C. Perfect first, 2-note away major second, 4-note away major third, 5-note away perfect fourth, 7-note away perfect fifth, 9-note away major sixth, 11-note away major seven. If I think about a minor mode, I usually want to compare it to the main minor, where I keep all the perfects the same, and then I flatten or make minor all of the intervals that were majors. Except when I look at the main minor, which is Aeolian, I don't flatten the second, which is weird because you think you would. And then if I compare that to the other minor modes, which is Dorian and Phrygian, I can say there's only going to be one interval difference between these minor modes and the main minor, which is Aeolian, the minor scale. And so we're on Phrygian now. So Phrygian is the one that actually has all of the majors converted to minors, and therefore the one that's different is that second. So let's do a quick recap of that. We've now made the Phrygian the number one. So it's going to be our starting note. We're playing now in E Phrygian, which is a relative scale, relative mode to C major. I'm going to call Phrygian the third mode because I'm using the key, reference key of the major scale. So if I say I'm looking at mode number 3, I mean absolute mode number 3 as compared to the major scale as my reference key. And I think that's useful to do because then that'll give you an automatic reference of the Phrygian being the third, in essence, of the major scale, which might help you to at least know that it's going to be the third is a minor chord construction and therefore a minor mode, and then that might lead you to go from there. So let's look at the intervals one more time. We have the perfect first. That makes sense. It's always going to be a perfect first because that's going to be the first of the scale. We have a 1-note away minor second. That's the difference between both the minor mode, which is Aeolian. Aeolian is the minor scale, and it usually has a major second, even though it's the main minor, which is weird. It's the Phrygian that has the minor second, which is that distinctive kind of jawsy sound. Its equivalent or its inverse is that major 11, right? So then we have the next one is a 3-note away minor third. This 3 representing the third position in the scale. This 3 representing the distance. So that makes sense that it's a minor mode. Therefore, we converted the 4-note away major third from a C major, from a major scale to a 3-note away minor third. And now we're on the fourth. And the fourth is going to be a perfect fourth. And it's going to be the same as the major and the related minor, or the minor, A minor, or the minor scale, because it's a perfect. And then we have the 7-note away perfect fifth, which again is the same on the major as well as the minor scale and here on Phrygian. And then we have the sixth is a 8-note away minor sixth, which makes sense because it's a minor mode. Therefore, we flattened the major interval, which would be a 9-note away major sixth, flattened it to an 8-note away minor sixth. And then the seventh is a 10-note away minor 7, which makes sense because we took the major 7, 11-note away major 7, flattened it or moved it back to a 10-note away minor 7 as we would expect. So therefore, the differentiating factor between the Phrygian, which is a minor mode, and the main minor mode, which is Aeolian, is in interval terms, it's the second. The main minor scale has a 2-note away major second. The Phrygian is more minor than the minor mode because it has that minor 1-note away minor second. Therefore, if I knew this shape because I happen to play in A minor or in the related C major, then I could easily just use the same shape and convert this to E Phrygian and play the same shape. And then I can say, what if I want to convert from E Phrygian to E minor? Well, then, of course, I can just take this one interval difference and say, I need to shift it up. I need to augment it. So I could just take this note and shift it up, and that would change me to now be playing in a whole different shape, right? Which would be the E, the E minor, even though it's just one note difference, right? And that's one way you might think about it. So notice if I don't play the second, and I play just Phrygian without playing the second, I'm not playing the distinctive interval that shows that it's Phrygian as opposed to minor, and therefore it's ambiguous as to whether it's Phrygian or minor, and therefore that's one way that you can kind of move from one to the other, right? You might be able to say, I'm gonna convert to this shape that I know, I'm gonna noodle around in it, and then I'm gonna convert to E minor by basically just shifting this up in my mind. So I'm looking at the same shape, but that note I'm shifting up instead of converting my entire mind to a whole new shape. I'm thinking of the same shape and just shifting a note up. You can do it either way in your mind, right? And that'll lead you to actually do different things. And then once I'm in E minor, all of the relative positions to E minor are now available to me, right? Meaning the relative modes relative to the E minor. E minor would be the sixth or of the related major scale, right? And you can go on from there. Okay. But now we're on the fourth. So we're looking at the fourth interval from pivoting around this note. And so the fourth is now this is the one I'm going to mess up all the time because it's a 5-note away, which leads me to want to say perfect fifth. But no, it's a 5-note away perfect fourth, which has an inverse of the 7-note away perfect fifth. The perfects are inverses of each other. All right. So we're going to say the 5-note away. It's 5 notes away. So I could count it up this way, 5 notes away on the same string. That's possibly the first way to look at it. So it's going to be 5 notes, which makes nice, easy sense because I can reach up there 5 notes. That's about as far as I can reach and still be able to grab both notes with my fingers. And then we can go up one. So let's go up a string and say, okay, where's the 5-note away perfect fourth? By the way, we've seen this shape when I looked at the major, when we pivoted around the C, because it also has a 5-note away perfect fourth. The perfects are the same on the major and the minor, and in this case in the Phrygian, but we didn't go above it because we were up here on the C, so we didn't go above it. Now we're down on the second string, which means we have the note above it that we can go to, and we have a little bit different shape when we hit the fault line down here. So if I go above it, remember that I have to take the inverse distance. So it's a 5-note away perfect fourth. 12 minus 5 is 7. So I'm going to say this is -5, -6, -7. So if I look at this shape, I can count it up here, -5, and then -5, and then -6, -7. Wait a sec. Hold on a second. Is that right? Yeah, that's right. What am I tripping on? You're tripping, man. All right. So then I'm going to say, there it is. So that means that if I went from top to bottom, A to E, it's a 7-note distance. That's our power chord. That's a 7-note away perfect fifth. But that means that the inverse, going from the bottom, measuring from the E up to the A, is a 5-note away perfect fourth. So the perfects are inverses of each other. If you make one perfect, you got to make the inverse perfect. All right, so that means that if I go up one string, the 5-note away perfect fourth will always be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which would only happen on this string because that's the only string where I can go up 1 fret and cross the fault line. So like if I was on this E right here, and notice that the fault line is pushing this tectonic plate shifted to the right. Therefore, if I did have to cross the fault line, it's going to be a little bit longer distance. Instead of 2 frets back, it's going to be 3 frets back. Okay, so let's go down a string and say, let's go down 1. And we're looking for the 5-note away perfect fourth. By the way, the 5-note away perfect fourth from chord constructions, because it's a fourth, an even, means we skipped it. We went from the 1, 3, 5, that's our normal, and then we'd go up to the 7, and then the 9 is equivalent to the 2, and then the 11 is equivalent to the fourth. So the perfect fourth from a chord construction perspective, if we think of it just as a circle, I'm not getting into octaves, would be it's equivalent to being a 5-note away perfect 11th. We can think of it as well, right? So if I go down 1, where's the 5? I'm looking for 5 notes away, so it's just down 1 is 5, because there's 5 notes between the strings. So if I'm here, down 1 is 5. So E to A is going to be our 5-note away perfect fourth, or 5-note away perfect 11. And that means that if I go down 1 string, the 5-note away perfect fourth is always on the same fret, unless we cross the fault line, which would only happen between these 2 strings, right? So what if I did that? What would happen? Here's the E over here. If I go down, it shifts up. Why? Because this tectonic plate shifts to the right. So that means that the 5-note away perfect fourth, or 5-note away perfect 11, will always be, if I go down 1 string, on the same fret, unless it's crossing the fault line, which only happens in this one instance on this string. And if that happens, then it's going to be 1 fret forward in that case, the exception to the rule. All right, let's say that we go down 2 strings. If we go down 2 strings, I could see it back here. Let's count it out. 5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So let's count it out here. I'm right there, 5, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. So we have from here to here. So E to A. So that's going to be a 5-note away perfect fourth. So if I go down 1, 2 strings, then the 5-note away perfect fourth will always be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back, unless I cross the fault line. Now I could cross the fault line in 2 ways this time, right? If I find the E here, it's going to cross the fault line. Let's find it up here so I have room. So if I found it on this string, which is way up on the 14th fret, but just for theory purposes, and I go down 2 strings from there, we're going to get to the A. And so notice it's going to be a longer distance. It's a shorter distance because this tectonic plate shifted forward. So if I go down 2 strings and I don't cross the fault line, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back. If I go down 2 strings and cross the fault line, it's only 4 frets back. Now you can also imagine that I find the E on this string. Where's the E on this string? Here's one up here just for, then I will also cross the fault line, because the fault line is right here, right? And therefore you're going to get that distance going from E to, what was I looking at? Where's the A here? Oh, I was trying to go 1 string down, 2 strings down. There it is right there. So now you have 2 exceptions to the rule, right? Because now there's 2 strings where you're going to be crossing the fault line if I go 2 strings down from whatever point I'm at. All right. I'm getting too crazy with it now. Let's keep it simple, man. Keep it simple. Let's go down 4 strings and cross. Now we're going down, 3 strings, and now we've crossed the fault line again. So now my things are out of sight. Just pull these back. So now we're going to say, okay, that's going to be 5, 10, and then now we cross the fault line. So there's 15 up here. 15 minus 12 brings us back to 3, and then 4, 5. Let's count it this way. So now I'm going to be from here, it's going to say from there 5, 10, and then up to here 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5. So from here to here, B to A. So that means that the 5 note away perfect fourth or 5 note away perfect 11th, if I go up 3, if I go, I'm saying down directional wise, if I go down 3 strings on the guitar from top to bottom, then the 5 note away perfect fourth is going to be 1, 2, 3 frets forward if I cross the fault line. Now, of course, I would cross the fault line here, and if I went down to this string underneath it, right? So this E to this A is going to be the same distance because we crossed the fault line, but I don't necessarily have to cross the fault line because I could be on the top string, right? So I could be going from here to here. So so the general idea is if I go down 1, 2, 3 strings, then the 5 note away perfect fourth is only going to be 2 frets forward, unless I cross the fault line, in which case the tectonic plate shifted to the right, therefore it's going to be further forward. It would be 3 frets forward. All right. So notice it's that fault line totally messes everything up, right? Because all of our shapes are not uniform as they are, you know. So, but that doesn't mean we don't want to learn the shapes, right? That just means we have to learn the shapes and then look at the exception when it crosses the fault line. All right, so let's say we go 4 strings down. Now, if I go 4 strings down, it's going to cross the fault line by definition. It has to. Otherwise, there won't be enough strings, right? So it's going to be 5, 10, and then this way to 15. And then we're going to go 15 minus 12 brings me back down to 3. And then 3 plus another 5 is 8. And then 7, 6, 5. So there we have it here. So let's count it out this way. It's going to be here 5, 10, and then up here to 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, plus another 5 is 8, 7, 6, 5. So here we have it, boom, right there. Let's see if I can grab that. So that means that if I go down 4 strings, then the 5 note away perfect fourth will always be 2 frets back. Now, the only possible other way I can go down 4 strings is if I start on the top string, right? And that means that if I go down 4 strings, I'm going to go to this one. I still cross the fault line. The fault line got crossed here. The fault line got crossed here. And so, therefore, it's always going to be, if I go down 4 strings, the 5 note away perfect fourth or 5 note away perfect 11th is going to be 2 frets back. There is no exception to the rule. All right, so then we're going to let's go to the next one and say, oh, by the way, this one down here, I could have said, it would be easier for me to find it up top, of course. So I could have said, hey, look, let me find it on this string first, and then it'll be the same down here. How do I do that? Well, the 5 note away perfect fourth has an inverse distance of 12 minus 5, which is 7. And then I would go 5, negative 5, 6, 7. And if that's it here, it has to be the same down here because they're the same notes, just different octaves. All right, enough of that, for crying out loud. Let's go to the 7 note away perfect fifth. The 7 note away perfect fifth is the same on the major scale because it's perfect, and it's the same on the main minor, which is the Aeolian, because it's perfect, and the Phrygian is the same intervals as the main minor or minor scale, except for the one we already looked at before, which is the 1 note away minor second versus the 2 note away major second. So, okay. And because it's the fifth, it's part of our normal triad chord construction, and it's in the triad chord whether we are doing a major chord or a minor chord. It's a power chord construction. So remember that if I know the notes, like if I know these notes and I'm in Phrygian, then usually I can at least add a fifth, right? Because I can make each of these notes into a chord. And the question is, do I make it into a minor chord or a major chord or a diminished, right? And if I don't know, I can at least add the fifth, which is going to be in either a major or a minor, except it gets thrown off with the Locrian. So you got to figure out where the Locrian and say, oh, wait, that one is going to be messed up. But all the other ones, you get at least out of fifth, and you're safe because it's ambiguous as to whether it should be a minor chord or a major chord, and you'll be in the key. You'll be in the right key, at least. All right, so then we're going to say then that we're on the fifth. Okay. So let's do that. Say we're on the 7 note away. Now 7's pretty far this way because I can't reach 7 notes up. So I can go backwards, and that would be the inverse distance. 12 minus 7 would be 5. So I can go back 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's my B right there. So that's about as far as I can reach back from here up to here, which I can barely maybe reach if I really stretch because I'm going backwards, which is the longer frets. So if I go from this B to this E that way, that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth. The inverse going from this E to the B, therefore, is a 7 note away perfect fifth because we're thinking of it as a circle. The distance one way, if it's 5 and it's a 12-step circle, the other way must be 7, right? And so we're going to say, all right, that makes sense. Let's go to the string above it. So if I'm looking for the 7 note away perfect fifth in the string above it, I have to look for the inverse distance. So that means 12 minus 7 is 5. So that's going to be right above it because I'm going to say it's -5 to go up one string. So if I look at that, if I went from top to bottom, how I might know that shape more clearly, B to E, that would be a 5 note away perfect fourth. And therefore, the bottom to top, E to B, bottom to top, has got to be a 7 note away perfect fifth. That means that if I go up one string, up on the guitar directionally, then the 5 note away, of the 7 note away, sorry, I might be saying 5 note, I get these two get me messed up. The 7 note away perfect fifth will always be on the same on the same fret, unless we cross the fault line, which would only happen on this string, right? Because this is the only string where I can go up one string crossing the fault line. And that means it's going to be here. Why? Because this tectonic plate moved to the right, and therefore that means that the 7 note away perfect fifth is going to be diagonal this way, right? So the idea would be the 7 note away perfect fifth, if I go up one string, will always be on the same fret, except when I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case the 7 note away perfect fifth will be back one fret. All right. And then if I go down a string, there it is right there. So we're looking for a 7 note away perfect fifth, 5, 6, 7. That's, of course, our power chord. We've seen that shape before when we were working from the C, where we saw the power chord. Now we're working from this E. So it's going to be 5, 6, 7. So if I go down one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, unless I cross the fault line. And there's only one exception to the rule if I'm only going down one string. So that would mean that would only happen if I'm on this string, right? Because if I go on this string, then I would cross the fault line here. And so that would mean that because this tectonic plate shifted to the right, then it would be 3 frets forward. So if I go down one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be 2 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only has one exception on the G string, in which case if I go down one string, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets forward. Okay, let's go down to the next one, ultra bass. So if I go 2 strings down, it's going to be 5, 10. I'm looking for a 7 note away perfect fifth, so I'm going to go 10, 9, 8, 7. Let's count it out over here. 5, 10, 9, 8, 7. So boom. So that's possibly not as familiar to people, but it's a really good thing to know because you have your third right here. So that gives you your E minor shape in kind of order, right? The lowest string or tone-wise is here, the third, and then the fifth. So you could start to memorize that shape. Sometimes you might see the third and then see the fifth is right behind it, right? However you want to look at it. But the idea would be that if I go down 2 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be 1, 2, 3 frets back, unless we cross the fault line. Now there's 2 ways we could cross the fault line. That would be on either of these 2 strings, because if I go up a string, I'm not going to cross the fault line, right? If I go up to here, to this E, I have the same shape, not a problem. But if I go down to the E on this string, which is that it's not, I'm going to run into the nut. If I go down here, and then I go 2 strings down, you go boom, boom. It's not 2 right there. Now I've crossed the fault line. So that means what happens on the fault line? This whole thing shifted to the right. Therefore, the general rule is if I go down 2 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3 frets back unless I cross the fault line, in which case it'll only be 2 frets back. And then if I find it on this string, similarly, I cross the fault line right here, so it's still 2 frets back, right? Those are the only 2 exceptions to the rule that we can have. All right, let's go back, and let's say that we go down 3 strings and cross the fault line. Then we're looking for this B. Let's count that out. So we're going to say this is going to be, I'm looking for a 7 note away perfect fifth, 5, 10, and then up here would be 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, let's do it this way from here. 5, 10. 10 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Boom, boom. Is that right? Que paso? Something's wrong. It's up here. So it's going to be 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Right there. That's better. Makes more sense. All right, so that means that if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, which is often going to be the case if I go down 3 strings, right? If I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, then the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward. Now, if I go down 3 strings, I will usually cross the fault line unless I'm on the top string, right? Because if I found the E below it on this string, I would still cross the fault line to get to this B, right? So it's still going to be the same distance, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I can't go down another string because then I run out of strings, right? I could go up 1, in which case I wouldn't cross the fault line. So this one is actually less common, but I'm still going to call that my normal rule, not crossing the fault line, in which case if I go down 3 strings and don't cross the fault line, then the 7 note away perfect fifth is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets forward. If I go down 3 strings and do cross the fault line because the tectonic shift moved this plate this way, it's going to be the 7 note away perfect fifth will be 5 frets forward. All right, makes perfect sense. I have it. I've got this is all totally encoded in my mind now. I have it down, no problem. If I go down 4 strings, I will cross the fault line every time. There is no exception to the rule, or to the exception, I guess. There's no exception to the exception. But it's going to be 5, 10, and then I can go up here, which would be 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, and then down to here would be plus another 5 would be 8, and then back to 7. Or I can say, why don't I look at the string above it, because it's closer, which means I'd have to look for the inverse distance. 12 minus 7 is 5, and there's the 5 note distance right here, and therefore it's also down here. So if I go down 4 strings, the 7 note away perfect fifth will always be on the same fret, Okay, let's go a little faster. You're pulling too much time here. We're going to go to the next one down. 8 note away minor 6. So a minor 6, when we looked at the major scale, we had a major 6. When we looked at the Dorian, we had a minor 6. So we've basically, no, we didn't have, because the Dorian has a major 6. So we haven't seen a minor 6 yet, noting that the 6th is an even note. So when I do a chord construction, we skip it, because it's going to be 1, 3, 5, and then 7. And then the 9 is equivalent to the 2. The 11 is equivalent to the 4. And therefore the 13 is equivalent to the 9. So we can think about this as an 8 note away, either minor 6, which is ties out to the relative position in the scale, or an 8 note away minor 13, right, is if we were doing chord constructions basically. All right, so that means if it's 8 notes away, it's too far up on the same string to measure it. So I'm going to look for the inverse distance to go behind, which is 12 minus 8, which is 4, right? So it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. So that means, let's count it out here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I go from this C to this E, that's a 4 note away, which you can call a distance of a major third. The inverses are always going to be the inverse of major or minor, basically. So that's a 4 note away major third. Therefore, from E to C is an 8 note away minor 6, because if I go around a circle 4 steps, then I could have gone the other way, which would be 8 steps, because the whole circle has 12 steps to get around it. It's a 12-step program here. I'm working on my 12 steps, okay? Leave me alone. I'm trying to do my steps. Okay, we'll go up one. we'll go up one and say, let's go to this one here. And we're gonna say, if I go up a string, I'm looking for an 8 note away minor 6. So I have to look at the inverse distance if I go up a string, which is going to be 12 minus 8 is 4. So we have then 5 minus, this I will call it negative 5, minus 1 is 4. If I count it here, so negative 5 minus 1 is 4. So if I measured from the C to the E, top to bottom, we might recognize that shape and should recognize it as a major third distance, 4 note away major third. But therefore the inverse, measuring from the bottom E to the C, must be an 8 note away minor 6. So the 8 note away minor 6 or 8 note away minor 13 is the inverse distance of a 4 note away major third. That's useful to know. All right, so now I'm going to say, let's go to the string below it. Notice that the only time it wouldn't be, so if I go up one string, the 8 note away minor 6 will always be 1 fret forward unless it crosses the fault line. It's only going to cross the fault line if it's on this string. It can only happen one time, right? So if I was down here, then notice the 8 note away minor 6 is on the same fret. And that's because the tectonic shift moved this plate forward, which means now it lines up this way. So that means that the 8 note away minor 6 is, if I go up one string, will always be 1 fret forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case the 8 note away minor 6 will be on the same fret. All right, don't fret. It's on the same fret. You can find it. I know, just getting through our 12 steps here. If we get through the 12 steps, we'll be okay. Then we'll be okay. Okay. So let's go to the one down below it. So if I go down one, it's going to be the 8 note away minor 6 is going to be 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I count that out here, it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8. Boom. So it's kind of like we have our 5th, but then we shifted it up 1. If I'm looking for the minor 6, right? Because our 5th distance, 7 note away perfect 5th was here, and then we shift up 1, a little bit further of a reach. So you could do it that, or maybe you finger it with your pinky, depending on how you want to do that. And so that means that if I go down one string, the 8 note away minor 6 will always be 1, 2, 3 frets forward unless we cross the fault line, which only happens in one place. That would be here, in which case the tectonic shift, because we're moving forward, would shift it out one, be a further distance. So therefore the 8 note away minor 6, if I go down one string, will be 1, 2, 3 frets forward unless we cross the fault line, which only happens on the G string, in which case the 8 note away minor 6 will be 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 frets forward. All right, makes perfect sense. Let's go down another string, and we're going to say, all right, if I go down 2 strings, 8 note away minor 6 or 8 note away minor 13 is going to be 5, 10, and then 9, 8. Let's count it out over here. 5, 10, 9, 8. Boom, boom. And so that means that if I go down 2 strings, the 8 note away minor 6 will always be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which can happen either on the D string or the E string, right? Because if I was on, let's find it way out here. If I was on this D string right there and I went down 2 strings, I would cross the fault line right here, and therefore it would be right there. And if I was going on this string, I would be here, and I would cross the fault line right there, which would bring me to here. So if I was up 1 string, then I'd be cool, because I would be the same. It would be here, down 2 strings to here. So we're going to say that means that if I go down 2 strings, the 8 note away minor 6 will be 2 frets back unless I cross the fault line, which can happen on 2 strings when I cross this fault line, in which case the 8 note away minor 6 will only be 1 fret back. All right, you've got that. Store that away in the memory. All right, let's say we go down 3 strings. Was I down? Is that what I said before? Let's go down 3 strings and we cross the fault line. So that means that we're going to go down 3 strings and cross the fault line. So it's going to be 5, 10, and then 15 up to here. I could bring that down to 3. 15 minus 12 is 3. 2, 1, 0, or 12. There's the octave. And then 12, 10, 9, 8. Wait a second. Que paso? Let's try that again. 5, 10, 15 up to here. 15 minus 12 is 3. 2, 1, 0, or 12. 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. All right, makes perfect sense. Let's count it up this way. 5, 10, 15, down to 3. 3, 2, 1, 0. There's the octave, or 12. 12, 10, 9, 12. Wait a sec. And then let me do it again. 5, 10, 15, 3, 2, 1, 0. Octave, 12, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. So I could go this way. That's out of reach, basically. But we can see it's because it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 frets back. Maximum distance, that means it's going to be 6 frets forward. That's the one that's just out of reach on either side we reach, typically. So that's going to be that one. And so we say if I go up 3 strings and cross the fault line, the 8 note away minor 6 will be 6 frets away. And I will cross the fault line every time I go down 3 strings, unless I was on the top string, in which case if I go down 3 strings I would be here, and so that would be going back to here. So that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 back. So it would actually be better to go the other way, right? To go up, which would be 5 forward. All right, I won't spend a lot of time on that one because that's the maximum distance one. Let's go down one more. We're running long on time. So let's go right to this one. So if I go down 4 strings, I can count it out 2 ways. I could say, well, it's going to be 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, plus another 5 is 8 right there. Or I could say, let me count the one up top. If I'm looking for an 8 note away minor 6, I look for the inverse distance. 12 minus 8 is 4. So I could say this is 5, 4, and therefore there's the same C on the top and bottom string. If I go down 4, let's count it out over here. So I go 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, plus another 5 is 8. So boom, boom. So if I go down 4 strings, the 5 note away, this 8 note away majors or minor 6, or 8 note away minor 13 is going to be 1 fret forward always, because I can't go down 4 strings without crossing the fault line, because if I was up here, I'd still have to cross the fault line, which is between these two. Okay, let's do the next one. Ultra vase 10 note away minor 7. The beautiful minor 7, the bluesy note that's in minor blues and the major blues, right? So well, that's an important one. So let's do that one. We're going to say 10 note away. It's a 7, so it's going to be a 7th. So it's going to be the same because it's an odd number. So if I counted it up, skipping every note, it would be 1, 3, 5. That would be my triad. But if I just went to the next one up, it would be a 7. And we're looking at a minor 7 here, 10 note away minor 7, as opposed to what would be on a major scale, which would have an 11 note away major 7. All right, if I look at it on the same string, I'm going to say I'm not going to go this way. I'd have to go 10 notes up. Therefore, I'll look at the inverse distance, which is 12 minus 10, which is back 2. So it's right there. So that means, like, if I was here and I go back 2, if I went from D to E, 2 note away, major 2nd, and therefore, because the circle has 12 notes, and we go the other way, we go from E to D, because I like to go the long way. I like to go the scenic route. I like to get a little exercise around here. That's going to be 10 note away, minor 7. Actually, I just don't know where I get lost. I usually go the long way because I pick the wrong way every time I get lost in the forest. All right, whatever. I'm going to go up 1. There's going to be a D right here. So if I go up 1 string, then we have to find the inverse distance. 12 minus 10 is 2. So therefore, it's going to be negative 5, 4, 3, 2. So let's find it here. Negative 5, 4, 3, 2. And so that D right there. So if I went from D to E, that would be a 2 note away minor 2nd. And therefore, the inverse from E to D would be a 10 note away minor 2nd. Sorry, the top to bottom would be a 2 note away major 2nd. Inverse, therefore, E to D, 2 note away minor 7. So therefore, if I go up 1 string, the 10 note away minor 7 will always be 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which could only happen on the B string, right? It could only happen here, in which case the D, you can see, is right there. What would happen? Well, this tectonic plate shifted forward, therefore they have a lesser distance. So if I go up 1 string, the 10 note away minor 7 will be 3 frets forward unless I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, in which case the 10 note away minor 7 will only be 2 frets forward. All right, let's go down 1 string. Let's go down 1 string. Take it down a notch. Could you take it down? And I will not take it down a notch. I'm the one got cheated here. I'm one got cheated. Taking his part. Okay, let it go. Let it go. We're gonna. Let's take it down 1. We're gonna say, if we go down 1, we're gonna say this is gonna be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So if we go down 1, it's gonna be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Boom. So that means that if I go down 1 string, the 10 note away minor 7 is always going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets forward, which is kind of easy to remember because that's like the maximum that we can usually reach by putting our finger on both of the strings, unless we cross the fault line, and it can only happen 1 time. It can only happen on the G string to cross the fault line. So if I cross the fault line here from that E, for example, to this D, it's going to be just out of reach, right? So that's kind of a pain because this tectonic shift moved the plate up this way. So that means usually the 10 note away minor 7, if I go down 1 string, it's 5 frets forward. But if I cross the fault line, which only happens on the B string, then the 10 note away minor 7 is going to be 6 frets forward, which is just out of reach, making it a little hard to play the blues on that one, unless you've got big old hands, which I do not. So I've been watching classical players, and there's these little petite, pretty, normal sized women, and they can reach, if they could do it, if they can reach stuff, man, then I feel like, I should be able to, okay. So if I go 2 strings down, if we go 2 strings down, then we're looking for a 10 note away minor 7. So 5, 10 is going to be down here. So we're going to say 5, 10, boom. So if we go 2 strings down, the 10 note away minor 7 is always going to be on the same fret unless we cross the fault line. And there's 2 times we can cross the fault line. It might happen on the D string. right? If I go 2 strings down from here on this string, then you can see that the shape got shifted up. And if I was on the G string, if I was on this string and I go 2 strings down, then I cross the fault line because the fault line is between these two. So if I go 2 strings down, the 10 note away minor 7 will always be on the same fret unless I cross the fault line, which can happen either on the D or the G string, in which case the 10 note away minor 7 would be 1 fret forward. All right, makes perfect sense. Let's go down 3 strings. If I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, 5, 10, fault line goes up here to 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. 2, 1, 0, getting me back to the octave, or 12. 12, 11, 12, 11, 10. So there it is. Let me count it up this way. So it's going to be from here 5, 10, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3, 2, 1, 0. So there's the octave. And then, or 12, 12, 11, 10. Boom. So is that right? Yeah. So if I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, which is often the case if I go down 3 strings, there's only one exception that I don't cross the fault line. If I go down 3 strings and cross the fault line, then the 10 note away minor 7 will be 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back. Now, when won't I cross the fault line? Well, it can only happen if I was on the top string. So if I was on the top string and I went down 3 strings towards the floor, then we're gonna have it back here, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in other words, if I go down 3 strings and I don't cross the fault line, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 frets back to get to the 10 note away minor 7. But if I go down 3 strings and do cross the fault line, anytime I go back, it's going to lessen the distance because, this shift moved up. So if I go down 3 strings and I do cross the fault line, it's going to be only 1, 2, 3, 4 frets back to get to the 10 note away minor 7. You see how that's working? Now if I go to the last one, otra vez, we can get to this one, la ultima vez. Is that how you say it? The last one? If I go to the last one here, we're going to say, it's going to be here. Now I could find it either way. I could find it by counting it down, by saying this is going to be 5, 10, and then across the fault line, 15. 15 minus 12 is 3. 3 plus another 5 is 8, 9, 10. Or I could say it would be easier to find it on the string above it because then I only have to go up 1 string. But to do that, I have to go to the inverse distance. And if it's a 10 note away minor 7, 12 minus 10 is 2. So that would be negative 10, negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, negative 2. That D is matched down here. Either way we do it, we can see that if I count it up here, well, let's just grab it. It's going to be right there. So if I go down 4 strings, I will cross the fault line by definition anytime I go down 4 strings because it's impossible to go down 4 strings and not cross the fault line. Therefore, if I go down 4 strings, the 10 note away minor 7 will always be, no exceptions, people, always be 1, 2, 3 frets forward. So let's end it with that definite point of certainty that without any exceptions.